Welcome to Norway, the land of the Vikings. Amidst the echoes of clashing steel and roaring seas, we resurrect a voice from the mists of history, Harald Fairhair, the Unifying King of Norway. This is not just a tale told, but an intimate conversation with the Viking ruler himself. Relive the legendary Battle of Hafrsfjord through the eyes and mind of Harald, tasting both the thrill and fear. Gain a deeper understanding of what it took to change the course of a nation's destiny. As we weave through this extraordinary narrative, we not only revisit history, but ignite a personal connection with it. The stage is set, the curtain rises. Let's begin our journey, our dialogue with Harald Fairhair. King Harald, it's an honor to converse with you today. Could we begin by asking you to describe yourself, both your appearance and your personality?
I am Harald, a king shaped by the wind and the sea, the battles and the elements. My visage bears the lines of the tempests I've weathered. My stature stands as a beacon for warriors. But beyond this facade lies a leader who stands not above, but among his people. My spirit is resolute, my will unwavering. I am a believer of justice, an upholder of traditions, a protector of my people. My life, like the scars etched on my skin, tells a tale of love for my land and people, a tale of a king united with his realm, not by birth, but by deeds.
And could you share with us your surroundings, the setting of our conversation?
Certainly. We sit in my royal hall at Utstein, an emblem of my reign. It's a grand structure with high rafters and walls adorned with intricate carvings. Hearths burn brightly, casting dancing shadows around the hall. There are benches strewn with furs, making it a place of comfort after a hard day's work.
Thank you for painting that vivid picture. It truly sets the scene for our conversation. Now, could we turn back the pages of time a bit? Could you tell us about your upbringing? What was it like growing up in a Norway that was divided amongst several petty rulers?
My childhood in Norway was both a playground and a classroom, surrounded by divisions among small kingdoms. Observing my father, Halfdan the Black, ruling his kingdom, I saw unity in small measures, which inspired me to dream of a united Norway.
So the fragmentation of your homeland influenced your vision for unity?
Indeed. My childhood's fragmented Norway wasn't disarray but potential. It inspired me to dream of a unified Norway, stronger and unbroken.
How did you undertake the massive task of unifying Norway under a single crown?
A challenging journey it was. The Norway of my youth was akin to a fractured mirror, reflecting a single identity in scattered shards. I dreamed of making that mirror whole. This ambition was not born out of a lust for power, but from a desire for unity, strength, and collective prosperity. The path to unity was multifaceted. Some petty kings were won over by the promise of a united land, of collective security and prosperity. Some alliances were cemented through marriages, a practice common in our traditions. There were also those who resisted, necessitating battles and conquests. Each victory brought with it a piece of the mirror I sought to mend. But the physical conquests were only part of the challenge. Winning the minds of the people, their trust, their loyalty, that was the heart of the matter. The king who rules by love is more potent than the one who rules by fear. And so, while I wielded the sword with one hand, with the other, I extended the olive branch.
It seems like a delicate balance between power and the people's trust. This leads me to the significant event of the Battle of Hafrsfjord. Could you take us through the events of that pivotal moment?
The Battle of Hafrsfjord was indeed the crucible where the fate of a united Norway was sealed. Many petty kings allied against me, viewing my ambition as a threat to their power. It was a confluence of armies, each with their loyalties, each with their reasons to fight. The sight of the assembled longships on the fjord's dark waters is a memory that still sends a shiver of awe down my spine. The clashing of swords, the beating of shields, the war cries echoing off the fjord's walls. It was a dance of war, a contest of wills and might. Yet amidst the chaos there was clarity. A single resounding truth. This was the battle that would shape the future of Norway.
Given the sheer scale of this confrontation, can you give us an estimate of the forces involved? And could you recount any specific incidents from the battle that have stayed with you?
There were at least 200 longships present on that fateful day. Each of those mighty vessels held dozens of brave warriors, so you can imagine the vast sea of humanity that converged on Hafrsfjord. As for the battle itself, it was a maelstrom of conflict, with moments of valor and fear, triumph and despair. I recall a moment when a longship, commanded by one of the petty kings, broke through our lines. It was charging towards my own ship, its dragonhead cutting through the waves like an avenging spirit. In that moment, a young warrior standing beside me, a boy really, no more than 16 winters behind him, charged at the incoming ship, leaping the impossible distance and clashing with the enemy. The act was reckless, perhaps even foolish, but it was also brave beyond words. It rallied the men around me, turned the tide of that particular clash. I never saw that boy again, swallowed as he was by the chaos of the battle. But his courage stayed with me. It was a testament to the spirit of our people, a spirit that refused to bow to break.
Such pivotal moments often hold countless stories within them, don't they? I'm intrigued by the role of King Kjotve of Agder in this battle. I've heard tales of him fleeing the battle from a small peninsula. Can you share more about his involvement and eventual escape?
King Kjotve, his part in the Battle of Hafrsfjord was notable, although not for the reasons he might have desired. Despite his initial bluster, when the tide of the battle turned, he sought escape. He and his men retreated to a small peninsula, a mere spit of land that jutted out into the fjord. The clamor of the battle grew distant as they put distance between themselves and the main fray. However, their escape was no secret. Their retreat was witnessed by many, including myself. Some would view it as a coward's act, but I consider it the will to survive.
And what about the berserkers, Harald? I'm fascinated by these warriors who are said to have fought in a nearly uncontrollable trance-like fury. Could you tell us about their role in the battle?
Ah, the berserkers. They are as much a part of our tradition as the longships we sail. They were indeed present at the Battle of Hafrsfjord, their participation marked by the raw fury that characterizes them. The sight of a berserker charging at you, devoid of fear, full of rage, is something no man forgets. They played their part in the battle, cutting through the enemy lines like a scythe through wheat.
Such formidable warriors. Their presence must have made a significant impact on the course of the battle. Moving on from the battle, how did these events shape your rule and the future of Norway?
The victory at Hafrsfjord was a turning point, but it was only the beginning. After the battle, the task was to unify the land, the laws, and most importantly, the people under one rule.
There's an interesting tale associated with your name, Harald Fairhair, but originally you were known as Harald Luva. Could you enlighten us about that?
Ah, yes, my vow. As a young man, I was smitten by Gyda, a woman of notable lineage. She rejected my proposal, saying she would not marry a king who ruled over just a small territory. So I made a solemn promise not to cut or comb my hair until I had become the king of the whole of Norway. Hence, I was known as Harald Luva, or Harald Tanglehair. It was only after fulfilling my vow, after uniting Norway, that my hair was cut. It was then that people began to call me Harald Fairhair, signifying my accomplishment and the transformation of my appearance.
Moving on, I'm sure our listeners would be intrigued to know more about the Viking culture during your time. How would you describe the lifestyle of a Viking in that era? Also, if you could, please give us a glimpse into a typical day in your life.
The life of a Viking, as you put it, Kai, was both hard and rewarding. We were farmers, traders, sailors, and warriors. As for my typical day, it varied. When not at war, I would usually rise with the sun. I always valued the calm of the morning. After breaking my fast, I would meet with my advisors to discuss the matters of the kingdom. The afternoons were often spent training with my warriors or inspecting the defenses. In the evening, I might engage in a game of Nefertafel, or simply listen to the skalds sing their sagas. Then there was the other side of life, the feasts, the festivals, the rites. We celebrated the gods and the forces of nature. We venerated our ancestors and we rejoiced in the here and now. Every aspect of our life was intertwined with our beliefs, and that Kai was the essence of our culture.
Another significant aspect of the Viking culture was their seafaring prowess. Could you share with us what it was like sailing across the sea, navigating through the weather, and finally setting foot on the British Isles?
There is nothing quite like the thrill of a longship cutting through the waves, the salty air in your lungs, and the anticipation of land and potential plunder. We were children of the sea, and our longships were like extensions of ourselves. They carried us across the waters to distant shores. Navigation was a craft, a blend of knowledge, intuition, and respect for the sea and skies. We used the sun and stars, the flight patterns of birds, even the color and temperature of the sea to guide us. The weather was as much an ally as an adversary. A good wind could fill our sails and speed us on our way, but a sudden storm could turn the sea into a churning maw of destruction. As for reaching the British Isles, it was always a moment of both relief and anticipation. Relief for surviving the voyage, and anticipation for what lay ahead, be it trade, raid, or conquest.
I can only imagine the blend of fear, anticipation, and excitement that must come with such a voyage. Speaking of these expeditions, could you tell us how many men typically constituted a crew for these voyages to the British Isles?
A longship could typically carry anywhere from 30 to 60 men, depending on its size. We had larger ships, the Drakkar, that could carry up to 100 warriors. But it was not just about the number, it was about the unity. Each man had a role, a position in the ship, and every role was vital. When we set sail, we were not just a crew, we were a brotherhood.
Are there any specific situations or memories from these sea journeys that have left a particularly strong impression on you?
One that I hold close to my heart was during a voyage to the British Isles. We were caught in a fierce storm. The sea was enraged, the sky was dark, and our ship was being tossed about like a plaything. There were moments when I thought we wouldn't survive. But in the midst of that chaos, there was unity and a strange sort of peace. Each man did his duty without needing to be told. The oarsmen rowed with all their might, the helmsman kept us on course, and others bailed the water that had filled our ship. It was in that moment I truly understood the strength of our brotherhood.
The bonds you forged on these voyages are truly remarkable, Harald. As we begin to wrap up our conversation, I'd be curious to know if there were any historical figures, either from the sagas or from your own life, whom you particularly admired or looked up to.
My admiration, I believe, lies not with a single person, but with the spirit of our people. Our ancestors who braved the unknown seas, who battled the harshest winters, who upheld our traditions and laws. Their spirit has always been my guiding light. But if I were to name one person, I'd say my father, Halfdan the Black. He was a respected and influential chieftain who ruled with wisdom and fairness. From him, I learned the value of strong leadership and the importance of justice.
Looking back at your life and reign, is there anything you regret or would have done differently?
Life, like the sea, has its share of storms and calm. There are moments of victory and moments of loss. One cannot exist without the other. As for regrets, I have made my peace with the past. The decisions I made were for the good of my people and my kingdom. Perhaps there were times when my ambitions led to unnecessary bloodshed, and for that, I feel a sense of remorse. But every step, every decision led us to where we are today, a united Norway.
That's a wise perspective. Now looking towards the horizon, what do you think the future holds for the Vikings? And how would you like to be remembered by future generations?
The future, like the sea, is vast and unpredictable. But I believe in the strength and spirit of our people. We are explorers, warriors, traders, and poets. We have braved storms and conquered lands. As long as that spirit lives on, the future of the Vikings is bright. As for my legacy, I wish to be remembered not just as a king, but as a unifier, as a man who brought together many tribes under one banner, a man who loved his people and his land deeply. That, I believe, is a king's truest victory.
Thank you, Harald. Your words echo the grandeur of the era you represent. It's been an honor delving into your life and your reign. I'm sure our listeners will find your experiences and insights incredibly fascinating. Thank you for sharing them with us today.
It was my honor, Kai. I hope my story will inspire those who hear it, just as the stories of my ancestors have inspired me. Remember, we are all part of the saga of life, and each of us has the power to shape its course.
If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe to Starlit Journeys for more. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Remember, true exploration is not the land it covers, but the journey it inspires.